I took a week off to do a little PR work for Lane Kiffin. Just now checking Twitter, and oh my God. Welcome to Beat Everyone. I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. And yeah, after our exclusive interview with Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer, I needed a week off. So after some fun in the sun, wrangling some kids for several days, we're back to talk some Alabama football. We're going to hear from you, actually, the listener, the viewer, and what you thought of that DeBoer conversation in just a minute. But helping me reflect on interviewing a head football coach is our good friend, the guy who helped me through it last year, but was nowhere to be found 2 weeks ago, AL.com Alabama beat writer Nick Kelly. Welcome back, Nick.
Hey, considering good to be back, and considering, last year I was kind of your training wheels, but finally gave you a nice push. Didn't need me this time, and so you're all set to go off on the trails. Did a good job.
Thanks for helping me spread my eagle's wings, and so I could fly, Nick. I felt like
what I'm here to do.
I felt like a really big boy. Yeah, truly.
All grown up now?
Yeah, I'm all grown up for my Swingers fans out there. So, Nick, you and I, we talked to DeBoer last year. We did a little bit of a DeBoer debrief on the pod the week after. I don't want to get into this conversation itself too heavily, but people can go watch it and see for themselves. But I'm curious about your thoughts on Kalen DeBoer's disposition, for lack of a better term. Right now, you cover Alabama. You've covered his entire career in Tuscaloosa. You've had conversations with him, including ours and others. You've been at pretty much every media appearance. You've been listening. You've been watching all of his press conferences, golf tournaments he's playing in. So it's your job to relay what Kalen DeBoer is saying to fans, or for fans to hear. And this is year 3. It's his third off season. So compared to the first 2, how do you think Kalen DeBoer has, I guess, settled in Tuscaloosa? Like we're no longer like in transition mode. Like he's here, and he's been here for 3 years almost. How comfortable would you say he is as the guy right now?
He seems pretty comfortable. And one thing that helps you be comfortable is when you have a brand new contract that keeps you locked in place. So that certainly can fuel some of that confidence, some of that comfort. One thing that stood out to me from your interview with him, Ben, was him talking about the South and what he's come to love about the South, and that being the weather, just living down here. And as someone who's from Minnesota, didn't actually grow up that far from Kalen DeBoer, I can relate in that I would much rather have very, very intense heat and humidity rather than having to shovel snow. You don't have to shovel heat. So that is one big difference. But he seems to be getting it. And even he's talked, whether it be on your show or other places, about he'd rather be in a place where people care so much that it leads to intense pressure. I'm paraphrasing, but I think he understands that, there is a ton of pressure here. Like he gets it. He's felt it. He's experienced that. And just the microscope that he's under in Tuscaloosa, that fishbowl cliche, right? Where you're not in Seattle anymore, where not everyone in the street's going to know who you are. Tuscaloosa, everyone is going to know who he is. So I think he understands that. And whether you can ever be fully comfortable with that, I don't know. Maybe it takes 6 national championships to be fully comfortable with that. But I do think he's grasped what he has essentially taken, because I don't know that you can fully understand that. And I don't know that he fully understood what he was taking when he took this job, even though he had a pretty good idea that it was going to be intense.
Yeah, I keep going back to that quote from his interview with Chris Lowe. Like that really stuck out to me, where he said, we knew what we were getting into when we came to Tuscaloosa. And I think because of the exposure that Alabama has had really worldwide as a global brand under Nick Saban, it truly reached far and wide. I think everybody had sort of like some kind of inherent understanding and education of what Alabama football is. But like when you're immersed in it and when you are directly responsible for it, it's obviously a lot different. And nobody really truly knows how he feels about that role other than him. And, we have conversations quite often about like, what do we take at face value when it comes to Kalen DeBoer? Because, he's often accused of using coach speak, right? And we'll get into that a little bit with what the fans said about the conversation. But I guess, we have no reason not to believe him. I mean, having had a couple of conversations with him now, it seems like this is a challenge that he genuinely wanted to embrace and he wants to stay in Tuscaloosa. And we obviously know about this new deal that he has and that he just signed. But, I'm curious, like, I think the fan perspective here is important. Do you sense buy-in from fans right now? Like, based on your social media reactions, based on feedback you get online, in person? I mean, you live in Alabama. Football comes up all the time. Where do you think the fan base is sort of collectively with Kalen DeBoer right now?
I would say that it has been a bit of a roller coaster. And I would say that now that he has this deal, I think a lot of fans realize, okay, Alabama's kind of married to this guy right now. So you better support him. And this needs to work because right now, if they were to fire him after this season, it would cost them around $70 million. They're not paying that. I mean, that's an absurd amount of money to pay someone not to work for you. And he could go somewhere else and make that money on top of what he'd be making. And so that deal essentially attached him to Alabama for better or for worse. And I think enough fans are realizing that means that, yeah, they better get behind this guy because I think that, yeah, it has been a bit of a split and predictably. I mean, who can say they're shocked that, hey, the guy who followed Nick Saban would maybe upset some fans or have some people not content with what he's doing. But at the same time, I think fans can get behind him. And I think that fans are getting behind him because they know that, yeah, he's going to be the guy. But at the same time, expecting more and wanting more. And so I think there's that healthy balance where as a fan, you can support this guy, but also realize that, hey, you want to win the games you're supposed to win. You want to not get blown out. You want to be competitive. And of course, you want to win national championships. But I think enough fans, we need to give more credit to fans, Ben. Like enough fans are smart enough to know that this is not the college football that Nick Saban won all his national championships in. So I think that, yes, even though national championships are the standard, at the same time, I think fans realize that is going to take some time and it doesn't necessarily happen right away. But patience can wear pretty thin. And at the same time, it's been fascinating. If you look back at the year threes under Alabama coaches, a lot of them had some good years. And every single coach, I believe going back to Bryant, and you have to fact check me on this, but every single coach going back to at least Bryant has had a 10-win season at some point, which is kind of absurd. I mean, that's pretty absurd that they've had that kind of run. I mean, Lane Kiffin, I think, had maybe the first or second ever at Ole Miss in terms of 10-win season. And so, yeah, like that's the floor. And so DeBoer's done that now, but he's got to keep doing better than that and keep improving. And so we'll see what happens.
It's so complicated. Like there are so many different factors here that are muddying the waters in terms of expectations in Tuscaloosa, because expectations in the 17 years between between Alabama's national championship in 1992 or won it in 93. And then obviously when Saban won his first in 2009, 2010, expectations did change. Like there was a different level of expectation when Dennis Franchione ran out there, Mike Dubose ran out there, and certainly when Mike Schuler ran out there, there were probably a handful of people who thought this is the year Alabama's going to win the championship again. But for the most part, people understood that Alabama's not a national championship competitive team. And with DeBoer, there's still that perception that Alabama is and has to be in the national championship picture because of how near we still are to Nick Saban's level of success and volume of success, and how often Alabama, which was pretty much every year of his 17-year tenure other than year one, how often Alabama was in the national championship conversation. And so that expectation is going to linger for a while until it dissipates relative to whatever Kalen DeBoer is able to accomplish. And you have to look at what he's done so far, which is from year one to year two, he has moved up. Now, a lot of people would say, well, you have to like pay attention to the nuance and to like the context of what happened, how they lost to Indiana, how they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship. And that's fair. But I wonder how thin patience will wear down, like how patience will wear down, because in the age of NIL and the age of the portal and the age, right? Modern college football, the expansion of the college football playoff, Alabama has to make it every year for a coach to survive. Like, we'll see. But that contract just totally changes everything, right? Because of the buyout, because of what it says about his commitment, Alabama's commitment to him. So I'm curious, though, Nick. Nick Saban was at the Regions tournament and he was asked about Kalen DeBoer's contract, right? And what did you read into his statement? Was there anything? Were there any lines to read between? Because I thought it was interesting that he said, "I'm glad Kalen DeBoer is the head coach." He was pretty clear about that. But then he said, "Look, I mean, there was obviously some interest, perhaps, with the Michigan job, and if Alabama wants him to be the coach, they did what they had to do." Now, that's not exactly emphatic. But what did you think of what Nick Saban said about Kalen DeBoer as the head coach?
He's correct. I mean, that really is what happened. I mean, it was a leverage situation. This wasn't purely, hey, Kalen DeBoer's earned this raise, like give it to him. Like it's all about the leverage you have. And in the same way that Lane Kiffin got $13 million to go coach at LSU when Lane Kiffin has not won a playoff game. Lane Kiffin has not won a national championship. So it's all about leverage because Lane Kiffin had other teams coming after him. In a similar way, Michigan was coming after Kalen DeBoer, and Alabama did not want to jump into the coaching carousel. And so that Alabama was in a spot where they pretty much had to pay Kalen DeBoer. And not that he hasn't earned it at all, but it's all about leverage. I mean, whether it's our business, whether it's the millions of dollars that coaches are making, whether it's some sales job. I mean, like it's all about leverage, and that's always going to lead to the biggest raise. And that's what happened here. There's another team that was coming after him. And now it didn't look like that because the extension was finalized in the spring. But this was all from the Michigan situation. And it all stemmed from that. It just didn't get hammered out until a few weeks ago.
More on Kiffin in just a few minutes here, Nick. So we had a lot
I'm teasing it here. So
yeah, thank you for that. And people are waiting, I'm sure. Look, we had a lot of comments under the interview on our YouTube channel. I want to read a few, get your reaction, Nick. And we appreciate every comment that you leave, folks. Like, we love the conversation. Y'all keep it real. It's a pretty broad spectrum, a lot of support, some skepticism. Here's what you said. Here's the first one. Quote, this is from Josh Johnson, 2736. DeBoer is a player's coach. He isn't going to throw anyone under the bus. That's also why guys love him. And so, Nick, we've heard throughout the 3 years that he's been here, including from Ty Simpson this past year, that Kalen DeBoer is a player's coach, right? Like there was all this chatter about even when Ty Simpson was projected to be potentially a better quarterback than Jalen Milroe, he to keep the locker room happy, to basically to keep players on the team, essentially, maybe he went with Jalen Milroe instead of Ty Simpson. Who knows? Like, we don't know that to be sure. But anyway, do you agree that like players love Kalen DeBoer? I mean, that's obviously why he does so well in recruiting. That's why he had minimal turnover last year, and at the end of last year did pretty well in the portal. What do you think of DeBoer's relationship with players?
Yeah, I think relationship building is one of Kalen DeBoer's biggest strengths. I mean, that really is what makes him successful. And not only just with players, I mean, Ben, we both have interacted with him off air, off camera. Like he's very friendly. Like, he builds relationships. And again, as someone who grew up about 3 hours from where he did, he reminds me a lot of a friendly neighborhood dad that you would see out grilling burgers in the backyard type of deal. And it's obviously a stark contrast from the way Nick Saban coached, but that can work. And that registers with players just in the same way that it registers with other coaches, the way it registers with donors, the way it registers with, just media interactions. Like, he connects well with people. And I think that applies to the team. And you see guys who have really enjoyed playing for him. You look at, you talk about some of the guys that were Saban guys who stuck around, and you ask them about essentially their responses to the DeBoer haters, the Tim Keenans of the world, the Deontay Lawsons, the Ty Simpsons. They will go to bat for this guy. And he was the guy that they kind of inherited. They didn't choose to play for him. They stuck around. So in a way they made a choice, but they didn't come to Alabama to play for Kalen DeBoer, but they're willing to go to bat for this guy. So I think he connects really well with players, which in a lot of ways you need someone who can do that in this day and age, because I'm not sure that the pure dictator model or the guy that rules with a heavy hand is going to work in the era where you can get up and transfer tomorrow if you wanted to.
Yeah, we had Justin Jefferson on, very high on DeBoer. Simpson, when he was asked, like, how did you guys roll through the SEC? 4 straight ranked SEC wins last year, credited Kalen DeBoer. It's because of our head coach. So we hear a lot of that from the players. So that's no surprise. A couple more comments here from Chasen Smith 5, quote, need to shorten the play call. Obviously, I read one of the play calls that Ty Simpson shared in one of his interviews, and the verbiage was just out of control. It didn't sound like DeBoer was going to change that anytime soon, but I thought that was pretty funny. Here's another. I mentioned the spectrum here, Nick. Quote, this is from CFB or CF Bias. He says, quote, all the Bama fans not backing DeBoer, stay on that side. You do not know ball, and you don't deserve to celebrate with us when he brings another title back to Tuscaloosa, end quote. And then D Kilgore 16 says, quote, either roll with us or GTFO. And on the other side,
what does that mean, Ben?
I can't make it out exactly. I don't have, I can't Google it at the moment, Nick. And then on the other side of that, we've got quote from Brian Salters 160, KD if Bama has no chance of winning a national title, end quote. Right. So there's, again, like a lot of comments like this where you've got people who are tried and true. They're going to stick with the tide no matter what. But then you've got people who I think are like trying to be realists. And they have this idea that he's not the guy, he's not the fit. And I keep hearing that a lot too. We always hear with head coaches, new head coaches after a couple of years, year one, even sometimes they're not the right fit. It's not the right culture fit. I think I heard Andy Staples say several months ago that if you win, you're a good fit. Like, how do you feel about that, Nick? I mean, do you agree with Andy, or like what with what these fans are saying here? What about the fit?
Yeah, I always go back and forth on quote unquote fit. In my mind, it's maybe a little overrated, especially now where, hey, if you can bring in guys from your previous stop in year one or year two and you win. I mean, look at Kurt Signetti. I mean, he's not from Indiana, and now Indiana's not that far from Pittsburgh, but that fit well there. He's winning there. And again, different pressure in that job than at Alabama. As far as Kalen DeBoer's fit, I think that, yeah, like he's not from here. And I don't think he's ever pretended to all of a sudden be a Southerner. But in one way, like I saw an interview that Mike Elko at Texas A&M recently did with USA Today, where he was talking about, hey, I'm not a Texan. Like, I don't do this, I don't do that. And so he's not trying to pretend to be that way, because I think that'd be disingenuous. We saw a coach in LSU or in Baton Rouge, who's no longer the coach in Baton Rouge, who tried to be a little Southern, and that didn't quite fit. And now that doesn't mean that Kalen DeBoer needs to start trying to fake a Southern accent or even say y'all all that much. But I do, in terms of his fit, like, no, he's not. He doesn't seem like someone that grew up in Tuscaloosa, but he knows how to win. And as long as he can find a way to continue building on what he's doing, I think folks aren't going to care. But I will say, if they are a true fit, quote unquote, that makes it easier to digest when maybe things don't go a certain way or things sputter a little bit. So I don't know. I kind of go back and forth, but I do get it. Like, it does help when they're a quote unquote fit, but I don't know if it's the ultimate deciding factor in success.
Can you imagine if Kalen DeBoer came to like his next press conference and he was talking like Foghorn Leghorn or something? And he was like, we're going to play some good football now. You can expect some good football from the Tide now. That's a little more Cajun, I guess. That's a little more like Ed Orgeron. But yeah, you should try that on for size. Take some notes from Brian Kelly and really try to fit in the same way. A couple more here. Interesting comments from people's interpretation of the interview itself. I heard somebody say, I mentioned the coach speak thing earlier. This is from the Know-It-All 4090 quote, you get less from Kalen in an interview than any coach in America, end quote. And you know, we've talked about that, I think, ad nauseum in terms of like how Kalen DeBoer uses the media, what you know his intention is in speaking the way that he does. You also hear him say, this interview did nothing to make me feel good. You didn't really answer any of the questions directly. They asked him what he learned from the Indiana game, and he pretty much said nothing. Just come back next year like you didn't learn to be more physical. You didn't learn to play with more heart. You let a team completely bully you with no fight. I like this guy, but he's just too soft in his mindset, end quote. That's from Love McLaughlin, 1384. So that's interesting. Take what you want with that. But I'm interested in your response to this, Nick, from Dolomite 205, quote, what I got from this interview, Mac will start, end quote. What do you think when he was talking about the quarterbacks, what he said about the quarterbacks so far? Everybody's been very high on Keelan Russell after 8A, obviously very high on him. But we know that Kalen DeBoer, based on what he said to us, is also extremely high on Austin Mack. Mack's put in a lot of the work. Did you get that from this conversation or anything else you've heard from Kalen DeBoer that he's leaning in any direction? Has he tipped his cap?
I mean, I don't know that I took away from that conversation that, oh man, Austin Mack is going to be the starter. I think it just confirmed, as we've known, that this competition is not over. And I do think that because there was so much attention and praise and hype around Keelan, that DeBoer is still trying to remind people like, hey, we still like Austin Mack too. Like this isn't over. I think it was more of that than it is, hey, Austin's the guy. Like, I do think that if 2 weeks into camp, if you ask that question, or I should say 2 weeks into spring practices, if you ask that question, I would have said like, yes, I think Austin Mack would be the guy. Keelan finished the spring really strong, and he's going to have to continue that in the fall or in fall camp. But as long as he does that, like, he's just so talented that as long as he's not making egregious mistakes and he's running the offense well, like, I just think he's such a good option for them and has a higher ceiling. But Austin, I don't think is a bad quarterback. I just think that Keelan, what he can do in terms of moving around and his short area quickness are things that when you have an offensive line that you're trying to break in and trying to get on the same page, you don't know what you have there yet. You might want a guy who can move around and get out of the pocket quickly.
Yeah, look, if you want to take a page from the Saban book, I think a lot of coaches feel this way. You want to mitigate risk. And you mentioned if he's not making egregious mistakes, that's what they want. They want a guy who's not going to make many mistakes out there. And whoever it is between those two guys who makes the fewest mistakes, regardless of who's the most talented, who has the most upside, that's likely the guy that they're going to pick. So, Nick, the fan opinion, it obviously matters, and we appreciate all those comments. But then you've got guys like AD Greg Byrne, the board of trustees, right? The players, even their opinion obviously matters. This is a crucial season for Kalen DeBoer to further convince everybody that, look, this is all under control. We're still building. Alabama is going to compete for a championship. We're several months away from kickoff, obviously, but 5.5 months into this offseason, just a few weeks removed from signing this big extension that we're talking about. What do you think is truly at stake for Kalen DeBoer in year 3?
It's a good question. I would say support is the biggest thing, where if he can improve, if they can, like I said, get rid of some of the mistakes that they made in terms of losing games they shouldn't have, like the Florida State game last year, and if they can make sure they don't get blown out, so you make improvement there, and maybe you make a run in the playoff, you make the playoff again, and as long as you can do those things, I think that will continue to garner support. But I think in the reverse way, if things go off the rails or a lot of things go wrong, if the offensive line doesn't gel, whoever starts at quarterback doesn't do well, they can't get the running game going, the defense doesn't play at a high enough level to counter that, all of a sudden you're looking at a season where you're maybe out of the playoff and you're losing support and you have support dwindling. And to your point, Ben, I think the comment section there has a pretty good representation of where the fan base I've sensed is at, where there are people that support him. There are people that are skeptical. And I think there's also a healthy, maybe Venn diagram of, hey, get behind this guy because they need him to do well, but also, hey, you want more as a fan. Like, I think that's a healthy spot to be, and it's an okay spot to be. But I think there's enough of a split on DeBoer among the fan base, and there's a spectrum of belief that if things go wrong, he's going to lose more of that support. And as far as donor support, as far as people supporting in the community, I mean, just all those things that you need for a successful college football program. If this goes the way that no one wants it to go, then you risk losing support that is absolutely necessary in this day and age of college football.
Nick, switching gears, Lane Kiffin's been in the news. You can go read the Vanity Fair article if you feel so inclined. He said some things about Oxford, Mississippi, how it compares to Baton Rouge when he's pitching recruits. Drew a little bit of a reaction. Mostly, I would say that it created Super Bowl level hype for September 19th when LSU visits Oxford. It's going to be one of the craziest atmospheres we've ever seen. If you thought it was bad when Nick Saban went to Baton Rouge for the first time as the Alabama coach, just wait for this. Nick, Alabama plays Florida State in Tuscaloosa that same day. Will anybody care? Like, should Alabama fans just skip it for Lane Kiffin's Oxford homecoming instead?
I mean, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the screen because we don't know the game time yet for the Florida State game for Alabama. But I know that if it's the same time as that LSU game against Ole Miss is, I'm going to keep one eye on a TV screen and one eye on the game in front of me. So it's going to be fireworks. And honestly, we might see a good bit of LSU or even Ole Miss fans from out of town staying in Alabama because it's going to be so hard to get a hotel in Oxford or anywhere close to Oxford at that point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what that's like. Even we might feel a trickle over effect here in our state too. So man, it's going to be something else. I'm excited for it.
I hope no fans do this, but I mean, something tells me we'll see like an array, more diversity in terms of what might end up on the field, like mustard bottles and driving range golf balls and things like that. Let's everybody just be safe out there and let's enjoy it the right way. But tying it to Alabama here, Nick, when Nick Saban retired, Lane Kiffin was a guy that a lot of fans wanted to see as his successor. They were very like public and vocal about that, like online or whatever. There was never any real indication that he was in the running for the job. There's speculation that he wanted to be the Alabama coach, but how do you think moments like this change the perception Alabama fans might have about Kiffin as the face of the program, right? Or is this just Lane being Lane? Like this is just what he brings wherever he goes?
I think you nailed it right there in the latter part of that. I mean, this is Lane Kiffin. This is what he does. This is who he is. And you're fine with that if he's winning for you. And if he's not, or if he left you for someone else, then you really don't like Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin. So yeah, I mean, this isn't shocking. I mean, we just have so many examples of this. And that's why it wasn't that shocking that he went to LSU and left Ole Miss during the season. I mean, that really, it was shocking, but it wasn't. I mean, this is Lane Kiffin. And at this point, if you're surprised by any of this, to be honest, that's on you.
All right, Nick, you wrote a piece ranking the top 5 plays of the Kalen DeBoer era at Alabama so far. You got some feedback from the fans. You may have left some things out, but your number 1 pick is the Ryan Williams go-ahead touchdown against Georgia. Why is that number 1?
In my book, biggest win of the DeBoer era so far, because that win stamped DeBoer and said that like Kalen DeBoer, Alabama under Kalen DeBoer is not going anywhere. I think that was the biggest message that game sent. And that play was the most memorable, and one, not only won them the game, but 2, it skyrocketed Ryan Williams and Ryan Coleman Williams now into stardom. So, and also just face value, forget the stakes, forget all that. Like what a crazy play. I mean, the fact that he managed to stay in bounds, made several Georgia defenders miss. I mean, what an insane just display of athleticism. So to me, that was the top play. Easily, if you just ask me, name one play that stands out to you the most from the Kalen DeBoer era so far, it's that one. So it had to be number 1 in my book.
All right, Nick, let's play some knockout here. You're going to pick the best Alabama football play out of all of the ones I'm about to list. I know you're a young buck, right? You were born in the 2000s. What are you, Gen Alpha or something? So some of these may be a little bit before your time, but I know you're a student of the game, so do your best, okay? Are you ready?
Hey, don't sell me short. I'm ready, but I was born last century, so I was not a 2000 baby.
You never know it talking to you, Nick. All right, here we go. We'll start with your number 1 from your list. Ryan Williams go-ahead touchdown versus Georgia, or George Teague runs down Miami in the Sugar Bowl.
I think George Teague in the Sugar Bowl, and I have seen that play, and thoroughly impressive. I mean, that game was huge too, right? I mean, that was the first national championship since the Bear Bryant era, and that play was one of the most memorable and just insane displays of athleticism that I mean, again, I wasn't around in 92, but just I'm sure it was one of the most impressive plays from that season. And so, yeah, give me that play. One of my national helped. Well, I guess, is that the one that didn't quite count?
It didn't count.
That's
Got
right.
Called back, but impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, like it's kind of like them trying to vacate wins after the fact. Like we all know it happened. like maybe it didn't count, but we all know it happened, and that play was very impressive.
It's because everybody hates the Tide, Nick. All right, well, that's a good pick. So you're saying the number one play of the Kalen DeBoer era doesn't compare to anything else that happened before it, is what you're basically saying. That's okay.
That's a leap, but I mean, he hasn't won a natty yet. So, I mean, that's...
You said it.
Well,
all right, Nick, here we go. George Teague or the Zabian Brown pick 6 versus Tennessee last year?
That was a good play. And Bryant Denny, I mean, that was maybe the loudest I can recall Bryant Denny being, and I've been on the beat since 21. But still, give me George Teague. Like, again, a play that didn't count, but like, to me, one of the most memorable plays from that game. If not, would you say that might be the most memorable play from that game?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was an amazing game for Alabama, but that one is the one everybody remembers, even if it doesn't count. All right, George Teague or Bryce Young to Ja'Cory Brooks in Auburn in 2021?
Oh, that was a good one. I mean, that capped that drive, right? That several fourth down conversions, backs against the wall. Oh, I will give the edge to, this might be some recency bias. I'll give the edge to Bryce Young, Ja'Cory Brooks, just because the play actually counted. The play actually counted and set up an iconic overtime win in the Iron Bowl.
All right, it gets really hard now, but I think this one will be easy. Bryce Young to Ja'Cory Brooks or 2nd and 26, Tua to Devontae Smith.
Tua to Devontae Smith. I mean,
okay,
that's probably the top play. Is it fair to say that might be the top play ever in program history?
In college football history, maybe,
yeah.
Right? I mean, like considering the stakes, what it did, we'll see, but maybe you like one of these better than that one, okay? All right, 2nd and 26 or Najee Harris hurdle touchdown versus South Carolina in 2019.
Oh, I mean, good one, but no, I can't. Why'd you not like end with 2nd and 26? Because I'm not going to pick anything over 2nd and 26 at this point, Ben.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Okay.
2nd and 26, the Clemson onside kick in the 2016 national title game.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I can see Nick Saban smiling as you say it, but again, 2nd and 26.
Okay. Maybe I screwed up here. 2nd and 26, the Terrence Cody block in 2009.
Also a great play and an awesome rivalry win, and got its own name. There's a name for the play, right? So that's big, but didn't win a national championship.
If you like the play, if you like the individual play better, Nick, you can pick it. All right, 2nd and 26 or Jalen Hurts go-ahead scramble versus Georgia in the 2018 SEC title game.
Also good play, but I would pick several other things over that one exactly. I would pick like Rocky Block, or I would pick some of the other plays we mentioned before over.
Just,
I mean, it was good, but
just another Jalen Hurts hater is what you are. You're the reason he transferred to Oklahoma.
You mean the Oklahoma quarterback? Is that
right? 2nd and 26 or Devontae Smith's one-handed catch versus LSU in 2020.
I mean, in terms of like athletic feat, like what's the criteria here? You needed to give me like a breakdown. Like, just what is your criteria
individual
for like top play?
What thrilled Nick Kelly the most? It could be the stakes of it, the importance of it, the athletic feat that happened.
I still think it's 2nd and 26 because it's not like, I don't know, it's not like he was just wide open, like 3rd and 1 kind of thing. Like, I mean, that to complete a pass that far away with your back against the wall, super high stakes against a good defense. This wasn't, I mean, I'll throw my alma mater under the bus. It wasn't like they're playing Missouri in the regular season. Like they're playing Georgia in the national championship game. So again, I mean, Devontae's catch against LSU was insane, but I still think the stakes of that game mixed with the impressiveness of pulling off a pass, 2nd and 26.
All right, 2nd and 26 or the Marcel Darius pick 6 against Texas in the BCS title game.
Oh, I mean,
stakes just as high here.
I love a big man touchdown. And I love a big man play. Like Caden Proctor's crispy screen was a favorite of mine from this past year. And so I love seeing a big man do some skill position type things, but 2nd 26.
Fancy footwork from the big man. All right, a couple more here. I'm going to test you. 2nd and 26 or the TJ Yeldon screen pass touchdown versus LSU in 2012. It may not have been a national title, but the season was on the line.
Yeah, I mean, a good play and certainly a good one, but
a good play.
So,
TJ Yeldon touchdown, a good play.
A great play.
I praise, Nick.
A great. You haven't given me something to knock off 2nd 26 yet.
All right, two more here. 2nd and 26, or the Kenyon Drake kick return versus Clemson in 2016.
I mean, I will say special teams touchdowns are hard to come by, especially against good teams.
Be true to yourself, Nick.
But I can't pick against 2nd and 26. Like,
all right, last one. 2nd and 26, or Gravedigger.
I was hoping you'd bring this up because, oh man.
4th and 31, or 2nd and 26. Iron Bowl glory or national title walk-off?
I would say that 4th and 31 was harder, like, to pull off. Like, that was less likely. Stakes, though, like,
I mean, Alabama went to the playoff after that. They went to the SEC championship after that. So stakes were high.
So you know what? Okay. Just for the sake of not picking 2nd and 26, I'm going to pick 4th and 31.
Whoa.
Gravedigger for this reason. 2nd and 26, like, yes, improbable, backs are against the wall. But they still would have had 2 more plays if it's incomplete. 4th and 31, if Jalen Milroe doesn't pull it off, where they all know exactly where he's trying to get the ball to, he has 1 play, he needs 31 yards. Like, they should not have, like, Auburn should not have let that happen. I mean, it's still crazy that Auburn let that happen. So in terms of improbability, I'm going to go with 4th and 31.
Whoa, upset at the buzzer. I can't believe you picked that. All right, Gravedigger wins the knockout round. I think you probably talked yourself out of it. Talked yourself out of 2nd and 26, but that's okay. I appreciate you playing here, Nick. Let me ask you a question real quick before we go. So I'm not trying to rage bait Alabama fans right now, but in all of these countdowns of the greatest college football plays that you'll see, whether it's like ESPN or like another national outlet, even I'm sure we've done similar things in the past on AL.com, you'll see the kick 6 and 2nd and 26. And oftentimes I'll see the kick 6 ranked ahead of 2nd and 26. Again, I'm not trying to like rage bait here and like make people insane, because I would make the case for 2nd and 26 for a lot of the reasons that you've listed here. But Nick, I know, I'm not trying to get you in trouble with the fan base, but like prior to coming to cover Alabama at AL.com or wherever you've covered in the past, what do you think is the more impressive play individually, in a vacuum even?
Well, I will say this. First off, I didn't acknowledge my bias in my previous pick between 2nd and 26 and 4th and 31. I covered 4th and 31. I didn't cover 2nd and 26. So I'm a lot biased toward that. So I'm gonna say that first off. Second off, you're gonna get me in trouble with the Alabama fans.
Kick 6. You're picking the kick 6, is what you're saying.
I think I'm picking the kick 6 because to pull off a special teams touchdown like that is so difficult to do. And the fact that it went the distance of the field, I think I want to give that the slight edge, but it didn't win a national championship.
Nope.
And so
it put them in a position to play for a national championship. It won them the West. They went to the SEC championship. They blew out Missouri. They had an opportunity. They were leading in a national championship game, but they blew it. They lost to Florida State. And it rendered the impact of the kick 6 to me not moot. It's obviously an incredible play. I was there in person for that. I was in the stands to watch it. But 2nd and 26, like you said, backs against the wall. It's overtime. They're losing. If they don't get this, it's likely the odds get even longer against Alabama to win. It's a walk-off bomb touchdown pass to win a national championship in walk-off fashion. A star is born in Tua Tagovailoa. A star is born in Devontae Smith. It's another national championship for Nick Saban, probably the best moment during his tenure as the greatest coach in college football and the greatest program in college football. I don't know how the answer can't be 2nd and 26.
I'll say this to you. So you persuaded me, but not the reason why you persuaded me. I thought more about it as you were talking. Special teams touchdowns are really hard to get, and like it takes a lot. But then I'm remembering that there are a lot of guys who are not meant to tackle on the field. A lot of big guys. They're meant to block. They're not meant to tackle.
Right.
And so uber impressive. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from what Auburn did on that play. But I will say the players around the field for Georgia in that moment were meant to stop a receiver. Like they were meant to cover a receiver. So I'm going to play to the crowd here, Ben. Give me 2nd and 26. You've convinced me. Give me 2nd and 26 because Georgia should not have let that happen. And the fact that a freshman receiver was able to catch that touchdown in an unlikely scenario, win a national championship, walk off, great play.
One play won a national championship. I mean, look, had Auburn won the national championship, then it would be different, but they didn't. So kick six doesn't really matter anymore, does it, Nick?
That was a leap. Once again, Ben, like the journey that you sometimes go on based on one thing we talk about. Next thing you know, we're over here, and then next thing you know, we're like way over here. So I don't know if I'm going that far.
Open your mind, Nick. We're going to try to get you to do it next time. All right, you were brave. I appreciate you for playing the game and going out on a limb there with me for that conversation. Folks, tell us what you think between 2nd and 26 and the kick six. We want to hear from you. All right, he's Nick Kelly. You got to read all of his work on AL.com, all of our great Alabama football coverage. Nick, thanks a lot as always.
Hey, great to be with you, Ben. Even though you're trying to get me in trouble with the Alabama fans, I still enjoyed it.
You're a slick guy, and you weaseled your way out of it very impressively. I see politics in your future. All right, everybody. He's Nick Kelly. Thanks again. I'm Ben Flanagan. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.